Hare Krishna, everybody. Dharma Pranam.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hope you all well. So we are continuing the new year. So let us just quickly summarize where we stopped. One moment.
Text 43.
43 or 44?
Oh, today we'll read 34, I think.
Oh yeah,
44, yes.
See, because that thing that I was yeah, I uploaded the recording, but actually they removed it.
Yes, we couldn't listen to it.
I removed, not me, YouTube removed it because at the end of the class I spoke about anti-government things, and I also mentioned, this experimental therapy, and immediately YouTube AI was alarmed. So yeah, AI is very powerful nowadays, so we have to be careful what we speak. Anyways, so
Do you mean that while you are talking, you are...
at the end of the class, I was talking and mentioning certain things about the governments. I mentioned about this COVID thing that was happening and other things. And then immediately, AI, they have, AI, artificial intelligence bot that is recognizing things that are not supposed to be said. So immediately, maybe 10 minutes after uploading it, immediately they remove the video and send me a warning. So then I said, okay, whatever. I doubt that many people listen to it anyway. So, but yeah, YouTube is very much censoring things they don't want people to hear. So that's why people go to alternative platforms like Rumble, and there are many other. With YouTube, they censored very much, especially during COVID times. Whoever spoke against, I cannot say even the name because immediately AI will catch it, and immediately he says that word with with the jab with the needles, they'll remove it. Who knows? Maybe this one will be removed also. Anyway, better we speak Bhagavatam than politics. So we are in the chapter of Prahlad Maharaj offering prayers. Yeah, Chatura Mataji, she must know how in China it is that you cannot speak anything against government. Immediately you go to prison. Here, isn't that Chatura Mataji? In China?
Yeah, like in China, we cannot see the outside website except some of the official website the government allowed to see.
Yeah, your voice is somehow cutting. Anyway, we know that the China, even
For
Google,
especially
YouTube.
YouTube and Facebook and Twitter,
Yeah,
something
your
like
voice is
this.
cutting.
What?
But even
Yeah,
this
what are?
so-called free Western world, they're also censoring. They're also censoring it. So YouTube is censoring similarly as the communist government in China is censoring. So we have to be careful what we spoke. I just said that they removed that video from YouTube last time, that because we spoke about the government and other things at the end of the video. And anyways, let us continue with the Bhagavatam. So, Prahlad, am I audible or?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, I thought something is
Fine.
wrong.
No.
So we are in this section of ninth chapter where Prahlad Maharaj offers prayers, and here we have in Bhagavad Subodhini short overview of these prayers. So first set of prayers, first four prayers is basically preparation to pray. Then in the next set of prayers, he's requesting Lord to give up his anger. Then he is seeking shelter of the Lord, Sharanagati, basically prayers of surrender. And then in the next, he's retelling his previous experiences in this material world, putting himself in the shoes of materialist, although he's not materialist. And then he's describing the glories of the Lord's mercy, how he already showed mercy to so many, so he can also save me. And then he's describing he's describing the power of the Lord, his position as the creator of this material world. And then we came to the section that we read last time, where he is expressing his own humility and asking for mercy, not only for himself, but for mercy for all conditioned souls, which is, the sign of Vaishnava. The Vaishnava is Paradukkha Dukhi. So that time we read, the shloka 43, which is famous shloka. We can just repeat it. He says, here, best of the great personalities, I'm not afraid for myself, because I always absorb in thoughts of you, but I'm concerned for the fools and rascals for making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. So I'm simply concerned out of love for them. So praying for others is something that is very touching to the Lord's heart. Okay, we pray for ourselves, Lord will have a mercy. But if you pray really sincerely for others, the Lord will hear such prayer even more, much more than just praying for your own deliverance. So Prahlad Maharaj is exactly here doing this, expressing his concern for others. And he has a lot of concerns because he's living in a demoniac society on a at that time. It was subterranean Bilvasvarga planets where everybody else was, they were asuras, demons, engrossed in sense gratification. And now here we are on the next 44, where he's further expressing his prayer for others. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalaka Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So he says, Prayena Deva Munaya Svavimukti Kamam Maunam Charanti Vijane Naparararta Nishtam Naitam Vihaya Kripadan Vibumuksha Eko Nanyantvadasya Sharanam Brahmato Nupashyam. So translation. My dear Lord Nisimadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Mauna Vrata. They're not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. Purport. This is the decision of the Vaishnava, the pure devotee of the Lord. For himself, he has no problems. Even he has to stay in this material world because his only business is to remain in Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious person can go even to hell and still be happy. Devablal Maharaj said, Naivodvije para duratyaya vaitharanya. O best of the great personalities, I'm not at all afraid of material existence. The pure devotee is never unhappy in any condition of life. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Narana para sarve na kutarshchana bhibyati Svarga Pavarga Narakesh Vapi Tulyarta Darshina. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. Such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. For a devotee, being situated in the heavenly planets and being in the hellish planets are equal. For a devotee lives neither in heaven nor in hell, but with Krishna in the spiritual world. The secret of success for the devotee is not understood by the karmis and jnanis. Karmis therefore try to be happy by material adjustment, and jnanis want to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme. The devotee has no such interest. He is not interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest. Rather, his interest is in the busiest part of the world, where he teaches people Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness movement was started for this purpose. We do not teach one to meditate in a secluded place just so that one may show that he has become very much advanced and may be proud of his so-called transcendental meditation, although he engages in all sorts of foolish materialistic activity. A Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaj is not interested in such a bluff of spiritual advancement. Rather, he is interested in enlightening people in Krishna consciousness because that is the only way for them to become happy. Prahlad Maharaj says clearly, Dhanyantvat asya sharanam brahmato nupasye. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. One wanders within the universe life after life, but by the grace of a devotee, a servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can get the clue to Krishna consciousness and then not only become happy in this world, but also return home back to Godhead. That is the real target in life. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement are not at all interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest, where one will only make a show of meditation, nor are they interested in opening many schools for yoga and meditation in the cities. Rather, every member of the Krishna consciousness movement is interested in going door to door to try to convince people about teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That is the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. The members of Krishna consciousness movement must be fully convinced that without Krishna one cannot be happy. Thus, the Krishna consciousness person avoids all kinds of pseudo-spiritualists, transcendentalists, meditators, monists, philosophers, and philanthropists. And Vishnu Jagdi Thakur, please accept liberation. The sages with knowledge will teach you the process of liberation. The sages act for liberation, but I do not want to be like that. I do not desire liberation. Other than you, I do not see anyone as a shelter. So first, Lord is offering liberation, and then in response to that, Prahlad is saying, I don't want liberation. I don't want to be like these sages who are interested in their own deliverance. So yeah, this is the main point in this verse, that everybody except a Vaishnava in the material world, even so-called transcendentalists, they are interested in their own deliverance, in their own benefit, in their own welfare. Only devotee can be true well-wisher of everybody. So if you look karmis, who are not even transcendentalists, who are fruity workers who want to stay in this world and enjoy in them, and those who follow the Vedas, they are called actually karmis, others are vikarmis. So what they want to, go to heaven and enjoy in Swarga all sort of material happiness. And for this purpose, they will do, all sort of pious activities, sacrifices, charity, tapasya. They're ready to do many things for their own promotion. And also for, promotion of their family members. They will do, shraddha, yagyas, and this and that for their pitris, for their ancestors to be elevated to Pitriloka to enjoy. But it's all very, very limited and selfish motivation. And then we have transcendentalists who are seeking happiness outside of this material world. And amongst them, Yagyanis, yogis, and all those people who, to this mystic process or Stanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga, seek liberation. They're also interested in their own happiness. They don't really want anything for others. They don't care for others. They just want to deliver themselves and enjoy Brahma Saukya, the happiness of Brahman, or whatever they want. So all these people, they are selfishly motivated. Only Vaishnava, he is so broad-minded, the real Vaishnava, like Prahlad Maharaj. He's so generous, so selfless, that even for himself, he doesn't really care whether he goes to hell or heaven. For Krishna, he can go anywhere for Krishna's business. So that's why he's completely fearless. So this is the natural symptom of prema, of love of God, that for Krishna, one is ready to go even to hell. And he doesn't care for his own happiness. He's not interested in his own happiness. He's interested in Krishna's happiness, and he's compassionate. He feels sorry when he sees others suffering. So that's why, in order to help them, he's ready to undergo all sorts of tribulations. So yeah, Prabhupada here speaks about, Krishna consciousness movement that was started in the West by him, who was already 70 years old, 69 years old when he went to the West, and none of other, his god brothers, they didn't want to go to the West, actually. There was a couple of his god brothers, Bon Maharaj and a couple of others who went, sent by Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur in I think in 1920s, and they were all funded by Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur from India. So he was sending the money in order to fund their preaching activity in London and Europe. But somehow they couldn't do much, they didn't do much. But then Prabhupada, after that, he went without any money, with just 40 rupees in his pocket. And none of his good brothers really supported him. When he asked for help from India, they were not inclined to help. So Prabhupada had to do everything himself. But fortunately for us, Krishna helped him. And now we have, Krishna consciousness movement spread all over the world just because of his selfless sacrifice, going to the West to spread Krishna consciousness. If he didn't do that, I mean, who would know? At least those of us who were not born in India. And even those who were born in India, Vaishnavism wouldn't be in very good shape without Prabhupada. There will be a few Gaudiya Maths here and there. And there, of course, in South India, there will be some, Sri Sampradaya Vaishnavas here and there. And if you were lucky to be born in those families, maybe you would be a Vaishnava, but most of us wouldn't be. Okay, so yeah, Vaishnava is the best well-wisher of everybody. That's why Prabhupada always signed as your ever well-wisher. And he was truly ever well-wisher of everybody. Yes, Prabhu.
A quick one. So in Prabhupada's very specific instructions here are really preaching Krishna consciousness as opposed to wasting time on yoga and meditation, but there is a growing proliferation of yoga in the name of bridge preaching, etc., that happens throughout ISKCON now as well. So is that not against the spirit of Prabhupada's instructions here, not to waste time on those practices, but we still do promote those, as I said, in the name of bridge preaching, which in my experience very rarely goes beyond bridge preaching.
Yeah, this is a good question, Prabhu, and I don't think there is just one answer to this. Well, if that bridge preaching leads to people becoming a devotees, then you can say it's proper utilization. It's Yuta Variant. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. In Russia, there is one devotee called Dr. Tursunov. His initiated name is Audharya Dham. And Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he said that he's the greatest, preacher in Russia, because through him, thousands and thousands of devotees joined. He's a doctor who is in all sorts of alternative health practices, and somehow many people attend, his seminars. But somehow it doesn't stop at health. He further, coaches them to become devotees, and somehow they're coming to ISKCON and becoming initiated devotees. So in that sense, we can, say by the result that his preaching is giving some results. Many people are joining and becoming full-time, not full-time, but initiated devotees at least, who follow, Four Reality Principles, chant 16 rounds. But yes, in many cases, as you said, yoga and so-called meditations that devotees may hold could be just, a business or way of living, way to make money, which doesn't really lead anywhere. In that sense, yeah, that refers to what Prabhupada is saying in this purport. So yeah, I wouldn't make a blanket statement that all bridge preaching is completely useless. It depends also, yeah, on the motivation of the person doing it. If that person is really, interesting in bringing people to Krishna consciousness, and he is pure heart and really selfless motivation, and then he's using this as a tool. But in many cases, as you said, we just, mask our own fruitive activity as a bridge preaching, because we like yoga and we need, some income. Then we open yoga studio and say, oh, this is preaching, or we teach some sort of meditation. And then again, nobody's becoming devotees from this. And then, yeah. So like that, well, in Prabhupada's times, there was not much of a bridge preaching. Everything was very much, direct. It was, first it was just Harinam Sankirtan on the streets. Then they start distributing back the God in magazines. And then books came a little later. And then prasadam distribution in the form of food for life. And we see that in those days, the most people actually joined to this direct preaching. So it is possible to, preach even without the bridge preaching. But if some people somehow find easier for them, maybe their occupation, somebody is, the professional yoga teacher, then he can utilize his own profession, like this Dr. Tursunova Daryadam, who is a doctor, and he's, speaking about the health. And then after people become interested in these health topics and start following him because he's very charismatic, they start following him. Then they want to learn. They want to learn what is he doing else in his life, because he's so impressive that immediately they become interested in him, and they ask him, "Oh, what are these beats you're chanting?" And then he tells them further, and then they become devotees. I also have one friend who is a martial arts teacher, teaching ninjutsu, and he also has a club, and he's holding some seminars, and people come. And then, yeah, he's teaching the martial arts, but they see that he's not hiding his shika and a tilak and all these things, and so they ask him about that. And some of them who came just for martial arts become devotees. Many do not, but some of them, they become. So he's using his occupation in order to preach, which is, it is okay for him. But if I would say for everybody, oh, now you all go and become a yogi or become a martial art teacher, this is the way how to preach. No, that's not the way. If somebody is already doing something and then through that he can connect people with Krishna consciousness, that is okay. But now if I have to go and, learn yoga, learn how to meditate and hold these seminars, then this is not really preaching. This is just illusion. Also, there is a very popular kirtan scene nowadays, and with many, musicians who sing kirtan, which is, Krishna's names, but also some other bhajans. And so many devotees, they got into this kirtan scene and going to the yoga clubs and holding kirtans there. So depends what the result is. Are people really becoming devotees from these kirtans or not? So we have to see. Is it okay, Prabhu? You have any other thoughts on this?
No, that's fine. That's exactly as you say, Prabhu. I think if it is used to extend people's Krishna consciousness, then it's absolutely perfect, not a problem. But as I said, I've experienced is that unfortunately a lot of many times, not always, of course, not blanket. As you rightly say, this preacher in Russia is very, very charismatic, and he uses it as a tool to bring people in. But I think in many instances, it's used as an excuse to kind of pander people's own likes, and actually very little preaching happens beyond that. I mean, I've seen so few real preaching going on beyond the kind of the basics of the yoga. So that becomes really a mask in using Krishna consciousness, which I think we should be careful of, especially within the ISKCON banner itself. Okay, privately people may do it, that's a different subject, but when it's been offered as an offering of classes, etc., within ISKCON, then I think it starts to become a little more dangerous if we're starting to veer away from the core part of preaching. So anyway, that was my thought. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I remember when I was in San Diego Temple in America, we started one program called Krishna Lounge. So next to the temple, we had one house, and somehow we remodeled the house, made it very nicely, kind of very, cozy. And then we would go on the street and distribute flyers inviting people for Thursday nights hangout or whatever they call kirtan, yeah. And then people from the street, without knowing much, mostly young people, they would come and we would have a kirtan, and then we would have some talk which was not much directly about Krishna consciousness. It was basically mostly criticizing, the modern society and civilization. And after that, it was some prasadam and hanging out with the people, trying to make friends. And I can say from these programs, few people joined here and there. So it was, bridge preaching. And then some other temples, they also saw this program and they tried to copy it. So then some other Krishna lounges, at least in California, showed up. And in New Zealand, the Amrita Maharaj, he had his loft preaching, which yeah, it was something similar to this Krishna lounge. All right, so let us continue. Anybody, Danishri Mataji would like to read?
Yes, Prabhu, I will do. Yes. Text 45. Yan metunad gamedi sukam hi tuchtam kandu yanena kaya karayor iva duka dukem tipand neha kripana bahu duka baja Kadunivam Manaja Visagieta Diraha. Sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Griyamedi, so-called Griyasta, who have spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The Kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of Brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are Dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching are not subjected to the suffering of fools and rascals. Materialists think that sexual indulgence is the greatest happiness in the material world, and therefore they make elaborate plans to satisfy their senses, especially the genitals. This is generally found everywhere and specifically found in the Western world, where there are regular arrangements to satisfy sex life in different ways. Actually, however, this has not made anyone happy. Even the hippies who have given up all the materialistic sensational happiness of sex life. Such persons are described here as kripanas, misers. The human form of life is a great asset, for in this life one can fulfill the education and culture. People are victimized by the false happiness of sex life. Prahlad Maharaj therefore advises one not to be misled by this civilization of senses gratification, and specifically not by sex life. Rather, one should be sober, avoid sense gratification, and be Krishna conscious. The lusty person who is compared to a foolish miser never gets happiness by sense gratification. The influence of material nature is very difficult to surpass. But as stated by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Mam eva ye papadyante mayam etam tarantite. If one voluntarily submits to the lotus feet of Krishna, he can be saved very easily. In reference to the low-grade happiness of sex life, Yamanujacharya says in this connection, Yad evai mama et cheta Krishna pada ravinde maya navarasa diramani udyantam chantam asit tad avadi bata. I have a problem to read.
Nari sangames Maryamhane, Bhavati Mukha Vicara Sustu Nishtivanam Cha.
Okay, thank you. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought, and my lips curl with distaste. Yamanujacharya had formerly been a great king who enjoyed sexual happiness in various ways, but since he later engaged himself in the service of the Lord, he enjoyed spiritual bliss and hated to think of sex life. If sexual thought came to his mind, he would spit with disgust. Vishwanath Chakravartithakur, the people will be happy by enjoying women and in that way become free of misery. But rubbing the hands together relieves itching, causes the suffering to increase. Then they should become disgusted and become liberated. Though these lusty people, Kripana, receive plenty of suffering, they do not think that it is impossible to be satisfied with the happiness household of the happiness household life. Iha, which is another form of suffering. But one sees that some of them become disgusted. That is true. A person who becomes wise by your mercy tolerates the lust born of the mind, which is suffering itself. Okay. It is explained in this verse. The important idea is how people get lost in the sense gratification, which is based on sexual intercourse, physical relationship, and the men degrade themselves and become more entangled in life, more conditioned because of this false pleasure. It is really a false pleasure, but the real pleasure is to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. It is safer, and Prahlad Maharaj encourages everybody to follow, to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord instead of believing in happiness from sense gratification, especially the physical intercourse, physical relationship. Okay, this is what I can say, Prabhu,
Yes,
as an
thank you.
idea.
Yeah, this is the main point. This is actually famous verse, this Yanmaitunadi Grihamedi Sukham. So Grihamedis, as opposed to Grihastas, those who live in family life with only purpose of sense gratification. And what is that's greatest sense gratification? It's Maituna, it's sex. Maituna Adi. It starts with sex, and everything in this Grihamedi life, sense gratificatory family life is based on sex. People work very hard, go for jobs in order to be able to pay their family life in which they will enjoy sex life. And this is, if it's family, it's good, but nowadays in Kali Yuga, it's unmarried sex life with the with the unrestrained sex life, basically. So who has more money, he can enjoy more sex life. In this way, feel so-called material happiness. But more one tries to enjoy, itching is increasing. This is the analogy is giving. If you wanna cure the itching by itching it more and more, you're not going to cure it. You're just going to increase the itch and the skin rash. So similarly, if you think that by engaging more and more in sense gratification that is represented with the sex life, it's the flame, the lust is just going to increase. Although sometimes it's said that by pouring a large amount of of oil or ghee on the fire can extinguish the fire. That means if one overdo it and engages too much in sense gratification, after some time he can get really fed up with it and lose desire. I think in Bhagavata we have example. Who was it? Uh, Not Pururava, but the in the Yadu dynasty, the ancestor of the Yadu dynasty, Yadu, maybe Yadu himself,
Was it Puranjan, Prabhuji?
or Puranjan could be, yeah, Puranjan also, but this is also allegorical story. But yeah, the Yadu, was it Yadu? Yeah, with the Sharmishta and Shakuntala. No, Sharmishta. We had, the goat. He was at the end. He was telling to his wife, that goat story. In any case, the example is given that, by indulging too much, and he just really overdoes it. He burns his senses so much that he becomes completely disgusted and he wants to leave it. So this would be the one way, which is actually not recommended, because until you get burned by sense gratification, it might take very, very long time. It might take many, many lifetimes that one becomes so disgusted. So that's why regulated, regulated sense gratification in accordance to dharmic principles is recommended. But in this way, you want to enjoy, okay, you enjoy, but in accordance with the dharma. And in this way, gradually, your uncontrolled material desires come under the control and decrease because you follow the dharma. So they gradually, decrease, and they're contained. So that's why we have these regulatory principles that Srila Prabhupada gave us, and one of the most important, they're all important, but one of that was most difficult for many to follow was no illicit sex, which was very difficult in the Western world, especially when Prabhupada came. It was a kind of hippie society, and everybody, it was a, how was it called? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So nowadays it's even worse. The situation is there. Now you have people changing their genders, having, unrestricted sex life with men and women without any restrictions. And then with the proliferation of internet, all other sort of illicit things came, like pornographic industry, which is one of the biggest industries with the billions of dollars of turnout. So all this is itching of hands in order to to stop the itching, but it doesn't stop it. It just doesn't stop it. So lusty person is a foolish miser. Kripana. Yeah, example of Yamunacharya. Yeah, Yamunacharya. He is the one example, one who got disgusted with his kingly enjoyment, and since he became a devotee and achieved love for Krishna, then when he remembers his previous happiness that he enjoyed in a family life with his queens, he feels disgust and he spits, because then he can actually see what the real happiness is. All right, so who is there next? Subhadra Mataji, would like to continue reading?
Yes, Prabhu. Mauna Vrata Sutatapo Adhyayana Swadharma Vyakhya Raho Japa Samadhaya Apavargyaha Praya Param Purusha Tetva Ajitendriyanam Varta Bhavanti Utana Vatra Dudam Vikanam. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are 10 prescribed methods on the path to liberation: to remain silent, not to speak to anyone, to observe foes, to amass all kinds of Vedic knowledge, to undergo austerities, to study the Vedas and other Vedic literatures, to execute the duties of Varna Ashram Dharma, to explain the Shastras, to stay in a solitary place, to chant mantras silently, and to be observed in trance. These different methods for liberation are generally only a professional practice and means of livelihood for those who have not conquered their senses. Because such persons are falsely proud, these procedures may not be successful. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, केचित् केवलया भक्त्या वासुदेव परायणः अगम दुन्वन्ति कार्ष्णेयेन निहारम इव भास्कर. Only a rare person who has adopted complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will refine. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. The real purpose of human life is to attain liberation from material entanglement. Such liberation may be achieved by many methods. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha dhamena cha. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:113. But all of them more or less depend on tapasya austerity, which begins with celibacy. Sukadeva Goswami says that those who are Vasudeva Parayana, who have fully surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, automatically achieve the results of Mount, silence, Vrat, vows, and other such methods simply by discharging devotional service. In other words, these methods are not so powerful. If one takes to devotional service, all of them are very easily performed. Mount, for example, does not mean that one should just stop speaking. The tongue is meant for speaking, although sometimes to make a big show. A person remains silent. There are many who observe silence some day in a week. Vaishnavas, however, do not observe such silence. Silence means not speaking foolishly. Speakers at assemblies, conferences, and meetings generally speak foolishly like thoughts. This is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as Vacho Vegam. One who wants to say something can show himself to be a big orator, but rather than go on speaking nonsense, better to remain silent. This method of silence, therefore, is recommended for persons very attached to speaking nonsense. One who is not a devotee must speak nonsensically because he does not have the power to speak about the glories of Krishna. Thus, whatever he says is influenced by the illusory energy and is compared to the croaking of a frog. One who speaks about the glories of the Lord, however, has no need to be silent. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends Kirtaniya Sada Hari. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 1731. One should go on chanting the glories of the Lord 24 hours a day. There is no question of becoming mount or silent. The 10 processes for liberation or improvement on the path of liberation are not meant for the devotees. Kevalaya Bhaktya. If one simply engages in devotional service to the Lord, all 10 methods of liberation are automatically observed. Prahlad Maharaj's proposal is that such processes may be recommended for the Ajitendriya, those who can't conquer their senses. Devotees, however, have already conquered their senses. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 1970. A devotee is already freed from material contamination. Srila Bhaktivinoda Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore said, Dushtamana tumi kishera Vaishnava pratisthare tare nirjanera ghare tava hari nama kevala kaitava. There are many who like to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a silent, solitary place, but if one is not interested in preaching, talking constantly to the non-devotees, the influence of the modes of nature is very difficult to surpass. Therefore, unless one is extremely advanced in Krishna consciousness, one should not imitate Haridas Thakur. who had no other business than chanting the holy name, always 24 hours a day. Prahlad Maharaj does not condemn such a process. He accepts it. But without active service to the Lord, simply by such methods, one generally can't attain liberation. One can't attain liberation simply by false pride. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Brahmins gain perfection by liberation. Through practice for liberation, such as observing silence, O Lord, Paramatma, what can I reveal to you? You know everything. There are 10 famous causes of liberation mentioned. Raha means living alone. If they have uncontrolled senses, however, their endeavors become means of livelihood for gaining sense enjoyment. The endeavor sometimes becomes to the occupation of the impostor. However, it is not a set rule that all will become impostors. He's Prahlad Maharaj saying that there are these 10 processes by which one can go is described on the path of liberations, and that is like austerity, remain silent, and things like this. It's written there, and these are not the method. Actually, this is not this is not something for liberation. It's like professions. So it is also said it's very rare that one can achieve this devotional service. And when we surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna, then we don't need to, then we already have this 10 process of, how say we, austerity, etc., to become liberation, to get liberation. So when you are Krishna consciousness, then you already have this all this 10 process. You get it from Krishna. So we don't need, as a devotee, we don't need to follow all this process. According to Sukdev Goswami, and we have to become Vasudev Parayan. So we should fully surrender unto lotus feet of Krishna. And then automatically we will get all these results. So, and then further. So it is the silent mount breath. It is mean that we should not speak this nonsensically. We should only actually speak about Krishna. And when you are not speaking about Krishna, then you should remain silent. It's also confirmed in Chaitanya Charit Amrita, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So that we should always do 24-hour kirtan. And then it's no question of becoming silent or mount. So by getting this 10 process of our liberation, then we can get the path of, sorry, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we can get the path of the 10 process, we can get it from Krishna itself. So we don't need to do that. We only have to surrender unto Krishna. And then Siddha Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, therefore, he said that Dushtamana Tumi Kishera Vaishnava. Can I have, yeah. There are many who likes to chant Hare Krishna mantra in a silent, solitary place, but we should not imitate Haridas Thakur. We should go out for preaching and trying to comfort, I mean, need not comfort, but we try to make people Krishna consciousness. So that is the best. And or if we are and Prahlad Maharaj said that we should not accept this process. It is like a false pride. This is what I can say from this.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. So tapasya, brahmacharya, shamena, jyadamena, these are the processes that people sometimes take up in order to achieve liberation. But actually, it's very, very difficult to achieve liberation through these processes. Just by performing some sort of tapasya doesn't mean that you'll be liberated. Just by being very strict brahmachari, it doesn't mean that you'll be liberated. You might be promoted, to some loka where the sages are, but liberated just by brahmacharya, it's not possible. There was a one brahmachari in Goralila who wanted very much to see dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so he begged Srivas Thakur to let him in. Otherwise, no outsiders were allowed to see the Kirtan of Lord Chaitanya. But Srivas Thakur know him to be very, pure person who was just living on drinking milk. He allowed him, so he told him to hide in some corner of the Shiva Sangan. But Lord Chaitanya, he could actually feel that during the kirtan, he didn't feel ecstasy as usual. So immediately he knew that somebody was hiding in the house. So he was asking, "Who is here? Somebody must be hiding here." And immediately Shiva Thakur said, "Oh my lord, nobody is here except of one very austere brahmachari. He lives just by drinking milk. This is quite some tapasya." Then Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, "One cannot get love for Krishna just by drinking milk or performing tapasya. Get him out of here." And the brahmachari was, shaking. He was in very humble state of mind actually, and he was going out. But because he was very much repentant and he accepted the chastisement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instead of, feeling pride, then Lord recognized his inner state as he called him in and gave him mercy. And he explained to him, just by following these austerities, like just drinking milk, you cannot really make spiritual progress. So if anybody is following any of these processes, one has to add bhakti to it in order to achieve liberation. Even jnana or yoga, they need to be mixed with at least little bhakti in order that one achieves success. One who is a yogi meditator, he has to, remember the Paramatma in the heart. So it's some Shantarasa has to be there in order for him to attain liberation. But this process. So and of course, pure bhakti is the best process that doesn't require any other processes. So it's the process that is most easily performed, and everybody should just take to direct bhakti. All right, so
Prabhu, I
yes,
read an interesting quote from Prabhupada only a couple of days ago, and I thought I'd just share it because it's relevant here.
please.
He says various forms, because people often characterize kirtans as being just going out kirtans on the street or singing. But he says various forms of kirtan. We perform kirtan with kol, kartal. This is also Krishna kirtan. And we write books. This is also Krishna kirtan. And we read books. That is also Krishna kirtan. Not that simply this kirtan is kirtana. If we write books about Krishna, if we read books about Krishna, if we talk about Krishna, you think of Krishna, you worship Krishna, you cook for Krishna, you eat for Krishna. So that is all Krishna Kirtan.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, Prabhupada is giving very broad definition of Krishna Kirtan, which means glorification of Krishna. So for whatever we do in order to spread the glories of the name of Krishna, it's called Krishna Kirtan. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he called the press, as Brihad Mridanga, the printing book, as he called Brihad Mridanga. Small Mridanga can be heard only by a few people on the street, but the books can be read by millions. That's why it's a Brihad Mridanga. So yes, thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so should we continue? Manasiganga Maharaji, would you like to continue reading?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Please.
Text Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.47. Rupe ime sad asati tava veda srishte bijan kuru kurav iva na chanyad arupa kashya yukta samaksham उभयत्र विचक्षन्ते त्वं योगेन वनिम् इव दरुषु नन्यतच्यत्. Translation: by authorized Vedic knowledge, one can see that the form of cause and effect in the cosmic manifestation belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the cosmic manifestation is his energy. Both cause and effects are nothing but energies of the Lord. Therefore, O my Lord, just as a wise man, by considering cause and effect, can see how fire pervades wood, those engaged in devotional service understand how you are both the cause and effect. Purport: as described in previous verses, many so called students of spiritual understanding follow the 10 different methods known as Mauna Vrata, Sruta Tapo Dhyana, Swadharma, Vakya, Raho, Japa Samadhya. SB 7.9.46. These may be very attractive, but by following such methods, one cannot actually understand the real cause and effect and the original cause of everything. Janmadi asya yata. 1.1.1. The original source of everything is the Supreme Personality of God Himself, Sarva Karana Karanam. This original source of everything is Krishna, the Supreme Ruler, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. Brahma Samhita 5.1. He has his eternal spiritual form. Indeed, he is the root of everything. Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam. Bhagavad Gita 7.10. Whatever manifestations exist, their cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This cannot be understood by so called silence or by any other hodgepodge method. The supreme cause can be understood only by devotional service, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam avijanati. Bhagavad Gita 18.55. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.14.21, the Supreme Godhead personality says, Bhaktyaham ekya grahaha. One can understand the original cause of all causes, the Supreme Person, only by devotional service, not by show bottle exhibitionism. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura 7.9.47. You cannot be attained by silence or other practices if they are without bhakti, cause and effect, like seed and sprout, flowing from one to the other. The total and individual form 378 are your two forms. This universe as a total and as a part is not different from you, na anyat. You do not have a material form. Arupasya, those with intelligent, yukta, search to attain you as both the whole and the part, since you are their final cause. They search by bhakti yoga, not by other processes like jnana. Bhaktyaham ekaya graha. I am only achieved by bhakti. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.14.21. In the case of fire, it is revealed by Prabhu. Can you scroll up?
You cannot see?
Yes. It is revealed by rubbing, yogena. Hare Krishna. So here it is said that we can know the form and effect of the cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by bhakti. Now, just being wise or just practicing any other processes or activities to know the Lord will not help. The God Himself also tells that here it is told that there are 10 different methods, that is Mauna Vrata, then Sruta Tapo, Dhyana, Swadharma, Vakya, Raho, Japa, Samadhya. There are many processes which people follow to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, He has told that He is the uh, he is the bijam, he is the seed giving father, and he also states that bhaktya mam abhigyanati. So whoever follows the bhakti yoga, or whoever is a devotee, a bhakta, can only know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he is the sarva karana karanam. That is what the Supreme Personality of Godhead says. And it is also mentioned in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Param Krishna Satchidananda Rupam, Satchidananda Vigraha. So, only by following Bhakti Yoga, that is the devotional service, we will be able to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so it is referred that we should um, engage ourselves in devotional service, and that is the best way to know the Lord. And Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura says, Prabhu, if you can just scroll down. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura says that it cannot be attained by silence. That is, attaining the Lord by silence, the process is Mauna Vrata. So, by being silent, one cannot know the God. We have to follow the process, that is Sravanam, Kirtanam. So, we have to use, we need not be in silence, we have to do Kirtan, we have to hear. Only then we will be able to know the cause and the effect, and we'll be able to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mantaji, for purport on the purport. So just to add here, these processes that I mentioned, starting with Mauna, Rata, Shruta, and Tapasya, they're all ascending processes. There are two types of processes: Aroha Panta and Avaroha Panta. One is ascending process that we, by our own endeavor, by our own strength, aim to achieve liberation and see the Lord. And then there is a descending process. Avaroha Panta means that by the grace, Lord reveals Himself. So it's not by our own strength, it's not by our own endeavor, it's not by our own sadhana that we are able to see the Lord. No, He reveals Himself to one with whom He is pleased. So that doesn't mean that we don't do any sadhana in devotional service in bhakti. We do a lot of sadhana, but we should understand that our realization, our spiritual advancement will not depend only on sadhana, but will depend also on the mercy of the Lord and mercy of the Vaishnavas. So we do it with the purpose in the mind to satisfy the Vaishnavas and the Lord, and then when they are pleased, the Lord will reveal Himself. So this is the cardinal difference between these two types of processes, between bhakti and other processes. Other processes, they rely on a practitioner's own strength, while bhakti, it relies on mercy. But of course, endeavor and the mercy, they go hand by hand together. So in that famous example of Mother Yashoda trying to tie Krishna, to bind Krishna, but she was not able until Krishna agreed to be bound. But still, she was endeavoring very hard, and because of this endeavor, Krishna felt compassion and allowed her to bind him. So similarly, when we endeavor very hard to practice sadhana, Shravanam, starting with Shravanam and Kirtanam, the Lord will eventually give His mercy and reveal Himself. All right. Shantirupa Mataji.
This is
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Prabhupada uses the analogy of the monkey and the cat. Yeah, the monkey, baby, the monkey is out of its own endeavors hanging on, but it can easily fall as well. Whereas in bhakti, we're reliant on the mother's, i.e., the Lord's mercy of Him carrying, and we're just surrendering. Is this the
Yes,
analogy?
yes. Thank you, Prabhu. This is perfect example. Yeah. Well, yeah. In
Hare
the
Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
yes, Mataji. All right. Thank you.
त्वं वायुरग्निरवनिर्व्यदम्बो मात्रा प्राणेन्द्रियाणि हृदयं चिदनुग्रहश्च सर्वं त्वमेव सगुणो विगुणश्च भूमान् नान्यत्वदस्ति अपि मनो वचसा निरुक्तम्. Translation: O Supreme Lord, you are actually the air, the earth, fire, sky, and water. You are the objects of sense perception, the life airs, the five senses, the mind, consciousness, and false ego. Indeed, you are everything, subtle and gross. The material elements and anything expressed either by the words or by the mind are nothing but you. Purport: this is the all-pervasive conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which explains how He spreads everywhere and anywhere. Sarvam Khalva Idam Brahma. Everything is Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, Krishna. Nothing exists without Him. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshva. I exist everywhere and everything exists in me, yet I am not visible everywhere. The Lord can be visible only through devotional service. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. The Supreme Lord stays only where His devotees chant His glories. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this explains further. Hridayam means mind, Chit means Chitta, Anugraha means one who favors. This means the Devatas. You are the gross, Saguna, and the subtle, Viguna. What is revealed by mind and words is only you. So, in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj describes the all-pervasive concept of Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Srila Prabhupada tells, that how the Lord spreads everywhere and anywhere. So it is said, the Sarvam Khalva Idam Brahma, everything is Brahma, the Supreme Brahma, Krishna. Nothing exists without Him. So even in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is saying that I exist everywhere and everything exists in me. Yet I am not visible. The Lord can be visible only through devotional service, which is the most important point, I think. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. The Supreme Lord stays only where His devotees chant His glories. I think that's the main important thing.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, this was the main point, that only through devotional service, only through bhakti, we can see Him, not through Sankhya, not through analyzing material elements or any other process. All right, so Gunraj Prabhu, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhu. Nete gunana gunino mahat adayo ye sarve mana prabaruttaya sagadeva matya adi antavanta urugaya vidanti hi tvam evam vimrushya sudiyo viramanti sabdat. Translation. Neither the three modes of material nature, sattva guna, rajo guna and tamo guna, nor the predominating deities controlling these three modes, nor the five gross elements, nor the mind, nor the demigods, nor the human beings can understand your lordship, for they are all subjected to birth and annihilation. Considering this, the spiritually advanced have taken to devotional service. Such wise men hardly bother with Vedic study. Instead, they engage themselves in practical devotional service. Purport. As stated in several places, Bhaktiya Mam Abhijanati. Only by devotional service can the Supreme Lord be understood. The intelligent person, the devotee, does not bother much about the practice mentioned in text 46, Mauna Virata Sruta Tapodhyanena Swadharma. After understanding the Supreme Lord through devotional service, such devotees are no longer interested in studies of the Vedas. Indeed, this is confirmed in the Vedas also. The Vedas say, Kim Artha Vayam Adyeshyamahe Kim Artha Vayam Vakshyamahe. What is the use of studying so many Vedic literatures? What is the use of explaining them in different ways? Vayam Vakshyamahe. No one needs to study any more Vedic literature, nor does anyone need to describe them by philosophical speculation. Bhagavad Gita 2.52 also says, Yadate moha kalilam buddhir vyati tarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam srotavyasya srutasya cha. When one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing devotional service, one ceases the practice of studying the Vedic literature. Elsewhere it is said, Aradito yadi haris tapasa tatakim. If one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in his service, there is no more need of severe austerities, penances, and so on. However, if after performing severe austerities and penances, one does not understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such practices are useless. Knowledge will manifest by bhakti to you and not by study of scriptures. Intelligence and skill, if these persons do not know you, then how will you, the ordinary jivas, know you after considering all things by mind, intelligence, study, and teachings of scriptures? After considering this, the wise have given up all these methods. Shruti says, Kim artha vayam adyeshya mahe, kim artha vayam vakshya mahe. What meaning will we understand and what meaning shall we speak? Nanudyad bahun sabdan vacho viglapanam hi tat. Do not contemplate many words. It gives merely fatigue from speaking. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.7.21. Smriti says, Yadate moha kalilam buddhir vyati tarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrata shatavyasya srutasya cha. When your intelligence has completely crossed the denseness of illusion, you will be indifferent to all that has been heard and all that will be heard. Bhagavad Gita 2.52. So here It is emphasized that the Lord can be, he can be fully understood only through devotional service. That is bhakti, rather than the intellectual pursuits of or any other rituals. Once a devotee comprehends the Lord through devotion, then there is no need for studying Vedic scriptures or performing any austerities. Scriptures also confirm that devotional service surpasses all philosophical speculation, as severe austerities and these scriptural studies are pointless because they don't lead to understanding and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the essence.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. So it's speaking about the studying the Vedas. How many of us actually even read the four Vedas, Samaveda, Yajur, Rig, Atharva, and we are always saying, oh, we are followers of the Vedas. But most of us, we never even read these Vedas. We are reading, the fruit of the Vedic literatures. Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a Purana, which could be considered Vedic literature, but not strictly Vedas. How many of us read, Upanishads? In previous ages, people were, learning, hearing from the Guru, actually, the Vedas, and learning all ritualistic performances for many years. And it was much more difficult process that we have by mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave us Harinam Sankirtan Yaga and Srimad Bhagavatam as the ripe fruit of the Vedic literatures. Otherwise, just by studying Vedas, one can be lost in so many karma kanda performances, and he most likely will not be led to the right path, that is bhakti. Because in Vedas, so many things are mentioned. That's why it's mentioned flower language of the Vedas. You just get lost in this. So we are actually very lucky that we have very clear path delineated by our acharyas. And yet, those who are realized, they have no need to study any books anymore. They have direct darshan of Krishna. It is mentioned that Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, he was illiterate basically. So that means he couldn't read. Still, the most learned scholar, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, accepted him as his guru. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he was, Jyotish master and, very learned in philosophy and everything else. And he accepted as his guru illiterate person, because that illiterate person was self-realized. He knew Krishna. So there was no need for him to read any books. But he had books read to him by his servant, like few books, Prem Bhakti Chandrika, couple of other books that express pure love of God. He was interested in these books, but he had no interest in any sort of Vedic or Puranic literatures. All right. Chaitra Mataji, would you like to read?
Okay. Which verse?
50. Can you see it?
Okay. Tate Tate Tama Nama Stuti Kama Pujaha Kama Smithis Charan Nayo Sravanam Katayam Shasevaya Tayi Vineti Satan Gayam Kin Paktin Jana Paran Mahamsha Gato Lepita. Translation.
Can you see?
Therefore, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all persons to whom prayers are offered, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because without rendering 6 kinds of devotional service unto you, offering prayers, dedicating all the results of activities, worshiping you, working on your behalf, always remember your lotus feet, and hearing about your glories, who can achieve that which is meant for the Paramahamsas. Purport. The Vedas enjoy Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labir Na Madhya Na Bahuna Shrutena. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by studying the Vedas and offering prayers. Only by the grace of the Supreme Lord can one understand him. The process of understanding the Lord, therefore, is bhakti. Without bhakti, simply following the Vedic injunctions to understand the absolute truth will not be helpful at all. The process of bhakti is understood by the Paramahamsa, one who has accepted the essence of everything. The results of bhakti are reserved for such a Paramahamsa, and this stage cannot be attained by any Vedic process other than devotional service. Other processes, such as jnana and yoga, can be successful only when mixed with bhakti. When we speak of jnana yoga, karma yoga, and Tana yoga, the word yoga indicates bhakti. Bhakti yoga or Buddhi yoga, executed with intelligence and full knowledge, is the only successful method for going back home, back to Godhead. If one wants to be liberated from the pangs of material existence, he should take to devotional service for quick attainment of this goal. Shivanatha Chakravarti Thakur, this summarized his prayers. Since one cannot know you by study and other methods, giving our efforts to know you, one should strive to perform sadhana for prema to you. This is the essence of all human goals. O Lord, most worthy of worship, offering respect to you, offering praises, deity worship, many service to you, remembering your lotus feet, hearing about you. Without this 6 angas of bhakti, how can one attain prema? Without this, one cannot attain prema to you, who award liberation to the jnanis, Paramahamsa Gato. By bhakti misra jnana, they attain liberation only. Therefore, since it the root of all success, give everyone service of the 6 angas, which will produce prema. If this is difficult, then give them liberation and free them from suffering in samsara. But I have been successful in service to your devotee. I do not worry. So in this verse, just the Prahlad Maharaj summarized the 6 kinds of devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. With this 6 kinds of service, then one can achieve the result of bhakti, that is back to Godhead. And this 6 service includes offering prayers and contributing all the results of the activities to the Lord, deity worship, and then working on behalf of the Lord, and always remember his lotus feet and hearing about his glories. And also one more, another important point we should know that the result of bhakti are only for those paramahamsas. But this paramahamsa cannot be achieved by studying the Vedic process. Because we all know that this Vedic knowledge are for the materialists, and they are not knowledge of transcendental, they are not the transcendental knowledge which leads us to go back to Godhead. So only by studying the Vedic process, and if someone does not do any devotional service, he cannot go back to Godhead. So the result of bhakti is for this paramahamsas. This reminds us that we should see those association with this paramahamsa, like Srila Prabhupada. By studying the books of Srila Prabhupada, we are also associating with Srila Prabhupada. And also the other yogas, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Dhyan Yoga, and if they are not mixed with a bhakti, and then also one cannot achieve the result of prema. And another important point, that means for preaching, when we apply in the preaching, we should know that if someone cannot do devotion service, then we can give them some knowledge of liberation, and then maybe in another life, this person can be liberated from the material existence, and then later he can take to devotional service. So the most important thing is that we should do this 6 kind of devotional service if we want to achieve prema.
Yes, thank you, Auntie. So it's interesting here that 6 divisions are mentioned. In other place, we hear about Navavida Bhakti, again, Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Archanam Pada Sevanam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. These are 9 divisions, and here we have 6 slightly differently categorized. And then also we hear about Panchanga Bhakti, the 5 most potent items of devotional service. So, you can divide it in different divisions. But as we are concerned, Shravanam Kirtanam is the most important. and then Smaranam will follow together with Vandanam, offering prayers. Yeah, what else? Paramahamsa. Actually, Paramahamsa is one of the last stage of sannyas ashram. When one takes sannyas, first stage is, I think, called Kutijhaka. Somebody just traditionally goes outside of his village and stays close by and still gets the food uh, from the village. And then when he progresses further in sannyas ashram, he starts, traveling. Bahudaka and Parivrajagachar. He starts traveling and begging door from door. And then the last Paramahamsa is supposed to be the last, the most advanced stage when one does not even carry a danda anymore. So Hamsa first and then Paramahamsa. So Paramahamsa doesn't depend on any more external formalities like, sannyas, vesh, or danda or any symbols. That's why when you see new sannyasis, they always, at least first year or two or couple of years in the beginning, they carry the danda because this is how it should be. And then after their sannyasi for some years, they might discard the danda. Lord Chaitanya, when he was going to Puri, he was traveling with his danda. And then when they came close by to Puri, Lord Nityananda, he took his danda and he broke it in three pieces and then threw it in the river, which was later called Dandabanga Nadi. Uh, and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned and found that his danda was broken, he was angry because he wanted to show by example that sannyasi should gradually go to the stages of sannyasi and not immediately presume that he is a paramahamsa, that he is completely self-realized, but gradually make advancement. Anyway, he didn't need a danda himself very much. And nowadays, first, yeah, you see sannyasis carrying them. Although it's not very practical, especially when you're traveling by plane, carrying them on airports, you need to check it in and check it out. So that's why they're making also collapsible, foldable dandas here in Gurukul.
Prabhu, I have one question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, can we understand that if one is self-realized, he is Paramahamsa?
Yeah, this is the meaning of Paramahansa. It's not only the last stage of sannyasa ashram, but Paramahansa means one is completely has nothing to do with this world. He's completely liberated, and he's already in a spiritual world. Just externally, he appears to be here. This is Paramahamsa. So he doesn't need to conform to any social rules and regulations. He might sometimes do something unconventional that is not according to the rules of the society. If he is Paramahamsa, Shukadeva Goswami, for example, he was Paramahamsa from the very beginning of his life. Since his birth, he just left and he didn't dress any clothes. He didn't undergo any initiation ceremony. He didn't receive, sacred thread and diksha and this and that. He didn't need this because he was self-realized from the very beginning. He was a Paramahamsa. So he didn't even
Oh.
need to dress. But, if we would go now,
You mean from his birth or some stage?
yeah, he was Brahma realized already, from his birth. And
That
then,
means
yeah.
after he was born. Oh yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, already in the womb, he didn't want to get out. He didn't want to be born until he was promised, but that he will not be caught by Maya. So Vyasa they had to bring Lord Krishna to promise him to agree to be born to promise him that Maya will not be able to catch him.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That
okay.
was true. So
I said,
he was a complete Paramahamsa,
yes. Yeah.
and that's why when he passed, through the forest, completely, naked, and he came across some, girls there that were not properly dressed, they didn't pay any attention to him. But when his father Vyasadeva passed, they immediately covered themselves and they felt shy. So Vyasadeva asked them, so my son passed here, and he's a young, attractive boy, and he passed, and you didn't do anything, to cover yourself. So can you explain your behavior to me? And they explained to him that Shukadeva Goswami, he's completely out of this world. He has nothing to do with this world. He sees, men and women completely the same. It doesn't make any difference. So if he sees us, nothing will happen. He will not be attracted to us or anything because he's a completely on a spiritual platform. So there is no need that we cover ourselves for him. But you, because you're a family man, you're playing some role in society. Although Vyasa, of course, was also self-realized, but still, because he was playing some role in society, he was not in a Paramahansa stage socially. So they felt obliged to cover themselves, and they felt shy because Vyasadeva was functioning within the society. Shukadeva Goswami had nothing to do with any society, with any rules and regulations. That's why he didn't even bother to cover himself. And then, the still, because when he was wandering around, he described that group of children and some women were following him. But when he came to the bank of Jamuna, where Parikshit Maharaj was waiting with the sages. All these women and children, they dispersed, they left, and then everybody immediately stood up when he came to the bank of Ganga, because everybody could recognize that this person is completely self-realized, and then we want to hear from him. Even, his father, Vyasadeva, was there, but still they gave, the high seat to Shukadeva Goswami. Is it okay, Mataji? All right, so we have,
Yes. Thank you very much.
I think only Shailesh Prabhu didn't read. Shailesh Prabhu, would you like to read the last one?
Yes, Prabhu. Can I ask a request you do the Sanskrit for me, Prabhu? Because I'm dyslexic.
Sure.
I struggle with this
No
Sanskrit.
problem. So Sri Narada Vacha. So now Lord Maharaj's prayers are finished and Narada is speaking. Sri Narada Vacha. Itavad Varnita Guno Bhaktya Bhaktena Nirguna Prahradam Pranatam Prito Yata Manur Abhashatha.
Translation. The great saint Narada said, thus Lord Nrsimhadev was pacified by the devotee Prahlad Maharaj with prayers offered from the transcendental platform. The Lord gave up his anger, and being very kind to Prahlad, who was offering prostrated obeisances, he spoke as follows. Purport. The word nirguna is important. The Mayavadi philosophers accept the absolute truth as nirguna or nirakara. The word nirguna refers to one who possesses no material qualities. The Lord, being full of spiritual qualities, gave up all his anger and spoke to Prahlad. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nirguna means without material qualities. Prahlad praised Nrsimha's spiritual qualities like mercy. Nrsimha had uncontrollable anger that Prahlad's father was attacking him. He gave up that anger on seeing the bliss of Prahlad. So not much to summarize here apart from the Lord being pleased by Prahlad Maharaj's prayers and purity of prayer, and thus being pacified by those prayers.
Yes, that's very short. Yeah, the point also here that Lord, he has spiritual qualities. Although Mahavris, they describe him as one without the qualities. They say nirguna, which literally means no qualities. So for them, the absolute reality is without the qualities. But this is not the proper conception. The proper conception that Lord qualities are, spiritual. And he can also be angry, as Lord Nityananda showed here, and his anger is spiritual. It's spiritual anger. It has nothing to do with the material gunas. When we get angry, it's all under the raja guna, and it contaminates you. And after that, we feel disturbed. You don't feel very nice. It's not a very nice feeling to become angry. You have to deal with the post effects of anger. But spiritual anger is, something completely different in quality. That is the anger that is coming from the soul. For example, spiritual anger would be if we see somebody torturing a devotee or harming a devotee, and we get angry. This is the right, the right anger. And it's not material anger. It's not the anger from arising from material gunas. So similarly, Lord Nrsimhadev anger is completely spiritual because he has qualities. He has personal qualities that Mayavadis try to deny to him. That's why they're considered aparadis, offenders. They want to strip the Lord from from personal qualities, which is quite big offense. Okay, so we will stop here, and then from the next class we will hear what Lord has to say. So thank you all very much. So I think we'll
Thank you,
continue
Prabhu. Hare
next
Krishna.
Hare
next
Krishna,
Wednesday.
Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Good night.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Okay.